Hey everyone, how y'all doing today? Welcome to $3 Theater. It's 4th of July, so if you guys are out doing fun 4th of July-esque things, I wish you the best of times. If you're not from this country and you aren't doing that, that's cool too. But a lot of people here in the States today are going to go out and have a grand old time, unless you are involved in movie YouTube or movie Twitter or anything like that, because it's a mess. Yesterday's announcement about Halle Bailey being cast as Ariel caused a massive, massive, massive shit show to hit the internet in a very insane way. And I basically predicted it was going to happen. I'm like on Twitter, as soon as I saw the casting, I'm like, the hot takes from this should be fascinating. And while we cannot judge her performance because we haven't seen her performance yet, the commentary on yesterday's video where I just talked about the casting was very interesting, and a lot of people don't seem to be very happy about that. In fact, even looking at the first story I want to talk about today here, that is this petition has popped up in order to remove Halle Bailey as Ariel, saying, "Don't make Halle Bailey become the Little Mermaid." And it's probably a troll petition, but it's making its way around right now. It's not got a lot of supporters, 61, and it just says here, she's not qualified to become the Little Mermaid and looks nothing like her. Now, that does come across a little bit like a dog whistle, a little bit like a dog whistle in there, just like, she looks nothing like her, which is true. She doesn't, but there are aspects to consider here, at least in the way that Disney is approaching it. So for one, you've got the Hans Christian Andersen story, Hans Christian Andersen being Danish. Therefore, the idea of Ariel, at least in the original writer's mind, would of course be of a young white woman who is also a mermaid. That could be the general idea of it. There's also the physical aspects of it, right? And I think I mentioned this yesterday, where there's no sunlight in the depths of the ocean. Therefore, there would be no melanin in the skin. So they would ultimately be very, very pale, maybe albino-esque. You know what I mean? And that wouldn't make for any good animation or cinematography whatsoever. So, but then you have the aspect of the original movie, which is set in the Caribbean with, a lot of kiss the girl, like a lot of Caribbean sounds, a lot of Caribbean themes, but with a white mermaid and a white prince set in Caribbean. I always looked at that as being more about like Europe's colonial aspects, or their how they took over everything. Like what's that one island that's in South America? The Falkland Islands. Like they were holding on to that for quite some time. Like that's always how I kind of viewed this particular setting. I could be wrong, but that's just how I took a look at it. So people are wanting to not have it be her. And I did talk about this yesterday on my other channel, where I took a look at the fact that you have several instances in pop culture where traditional ginger portrayed characters are replaced with Black women. And it's an interesting thing because it is real. You've got the Annie remake from 2014. You've got Iris West from the original Flash comics, Triss Marigold on the Netflix series. There are numerous examples of this happening throughout pop culture, at least in its adaptations. And a lot of people out there are starting to now take notice of it and really asking the question as to why it's happening. And I don't have an answer for you. I don't have an answer for you whatsoever. Producers are making that claim. They're the ones that are putting that out there. And people, I think, are generally kind of okay with it. Although Ariel could be the damn tipping point. I literally have no idea. I mean, you look at something like Iris West in The Flash, Candace Patton knocked it out of the damn park. I love her in that role. But originally, and a lot of people view that as being the canonical Iris West. But then look at MJ from Spider-Man. Zendaya did a great job in Far From Home. Not necessarily the MJ character that we know from the comics, but enough of an embodiment of her. Still, I think she's better than Kristen Dunst in the Raimi trilogy. So you've got that whole situation that plays out, and it's like, can people get past that? And that's kind of what Disney's asking here. And it really is going to boil down to a very interesting scenario. I do plan on doing a full-on video breaking down the original story and the Disney animated movie and what I think they plan on doing. I'm going to get to that sometime this weekend, so you guys can pay attention to that one. But I just wanted to talk about this petition and why. I mean, look, people are attacking her. Don't attack Halle Bailey. She did nothing wrong. She's just an actress. She was hired. This is the producers. This is Rob Marshall. This is someone at Disney that's making this claim. So we got to keep that in mind. We really have to keep that in mind when it comes to this particular story and how to approach it, because the last thing anyone wants, even if you are not happy with the casting choice, the last thing anyone wants is to come across as being, super bigoted or super discriminatory. That's not the case. I think when people are asking for, actual adaptations to be canonically accurate, that's a very fine ask. I mean, people love it when you watch a superhero movie and Iron Man looks like Iron Man, Spider-Man looks like Spider-Man. When certain things start getting changed around without a good explanation for it, people look at it as being pandering. They look at it as being a bad thing, and that can ultimately change the narrative of the conversation. Grace Randolph made a good point about this in her breakdown of it, where she had said Disney dropped it at like 3 p.m. or so on a pre-holiday, the day before a holiday, when most people are already out of town or they're getting ready to leave, and people aren't really paying attention. Even though Twitter blew up, it wasn't reflected in the national commentary this morning, and that's probably why. But it will hit. It will hit the national commentary here probably tomorrow, and by then Disney's probably hoping that a fair amount of the disputes are over with. So there is that. And then as a quick side note, like most of the commentary on yesterday's podcast had more to do with that specific story than literally like anything else. So when I address the comments, the top comments that came out from yesterday are all really about Little Mermaid. So that is unfortunate, but that is also just kind of the way things are. Now, moving over here to other dismal kind of sad news that makes a little bit of sense if you ask me. Tarantino, his Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is targeting only a $30 million debut. A $30 million debut for the 9th film from Quentin Tarantino, a movie that looks stylishly amazing. $100 million budget, because that's what he negotiated when Tom Rothman from Sony and him worked out the deal to fund and produce and distribute Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And it's only targeting a $30 million debut. You figure at this point, the 9th film by Tarantino would pull in. The guy... Pulp Fiction came out 25 years ago, which put him on the map. You figure by now people would know about this, but unfortunately they don't. Now, it says here that Quentin Tarantino's highly anticipated Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is reportedly on track for just a $28 to $30 million weekend when it opens on July 26th. So how can it really be called highly anticipated if it's only targeting 28 to 30 million, right? I find that to be kind of funny. It says here the estimate could be on the softer side of expectations, with some suggesting that Leonardo DiCaprio and the Brad Pitt-led movie could go as high as 50 million in its inaugural weekend. Sony Pictures is distributing the $90 million budgeted film. 50 million would be better, in my opinion, but it's also a Tarantino movie in the middle of summer. They don't tend to do as well, in my opinion, in the middle of summer. Tarantino films do better when they are award season fare towards the end of the year. We're talking November, December. I think that's when it tends to do better, because a lot of people are looking for those types of movies. But this is also kind of a funner take on it, I think. I'm not too sure. But then again, it does go on to say here that Tarantino's biggest launch today is Django Unchained with 38 million. So there is that. But The Hateful Eight only opened to 15 million. So, I mean, I guess at this point, Tarantino is very much, an avant-garde filmmaker, so to speak. I think that's not necessarily like the best way to go about it, but it does feel like that is kind of what they're, like at this point, 25 years, he has a solid fan base, but I think the fan base doesn't show up to theaters. I think they appear on home video. If you want my honest opinion, I think they appear on home video because I think that's how they were originally exposed to Tarantino, right? I remember I was originally exposed to Tarantino through Pulp Fiction when my parents rented it and they were like, no, you can't watch it. And so then I had to sneak out and rent a copy of it myself, and I fell in love with it. And then my friend's like, have you heard of Reservoir Dogs? And I'm like, no, what's that? And he goes, oh, it's Tarantino's first movie. And I'm like, that wasn't Pulp Fiction? He's like, no. And so we watched Reservoir Dogs, like, oh my God, I love this movie. And then like, man, Jackie Brown was great. Kill Bill Volume 1, Volume 2 were great. Death Proof is the only one I feel he kind of was a little bit weak on. And then I will fully admit, and I'll catch some crap for this, I have yet to see The Hateful Eight, but I plan on watching it for the first time on Netflix and the 4-part like kind of mini-series that they put together, how they recut that. And I'm going to review it when I watch it, but I'm definitely going to check it out before the release of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I am very much excited to see where that one goes. Okay, so jumping over here into Netflix news, apparently, and I forgot this was a thing, Pacific Rim is not dead yet. You figure after 2013 Pacific Rim came out and kind of was this middling. It did well it did well overseas. It did well in Japan and China. They saved it enough for Steven DeKnight to come in to do a much lower budgeted sequel. I believe 2017 or 28. I don't even know when that movie came out. I didn't see it. I wanted to. I just never got around to it. And that one kind of crashed and burned as well. So people thought the franchise was dead, but apparently not. Apparently, it's going to be coming over to Netflix here. Pacific Rim anime will have 2 seasons and will premiere in 2020. That doesn't mean that it's going to just simply have 2 seasons, right? Netflix has renewed it for 2 seasons, with most likely giving it more. Netflix in animation is really big, and they actually do support their animated shows a lot more than their live action, which is really crazy. I don't know if it's just the cost is a little bit cheaper, even if it takes a little bit longer to get them out. The fact that we're coming up on the 4th season of F is for Family sometime, hopefully this year, like that's one of my favorite shows of all time. I can't talk highly about that show enough. So they do put a lot of love behind their Netflix shows, their animated ones. Now it says here, Netflix Pacific Rim anime is confirmed to run for at least 2 seasons and will premiere sometime in 2020. Released in 2013, the original Pacific Rim movie is Guillermo del Toro's cinematic love letter to sci-fi and or giant monster pop culture that he grew up on in his younger days. So yeah, it did. It was a good movie. I loved it. It definitely was interesting. Curious what the anime is going to be about, but here's what we know about it right now. So according to this, those with long memories may recall that Del Toro once had plans to make a Pacific Rim animated show that would bridge the gap between the first and second movie. By comparison, the anime will follow a pair of siblings who pilot an abandoned Jaeger in an effort to locate their missing parents. So there's and it's definitely run by 2 guys whose previous credits include the Wolverine and X-Men. Or Wolverine and the X-Men and X-Men Evolution. So that will be interesting, considering the fact you can tell they're clearly aiming it at kids. They're definitely aiming it at the younger audience, but they may not be. I mean, outside of having a show like this, you've got Voltron, which I think just wrapped up like 7 or 8 seasons in a couple years. They released a few, I think it was like 5 episodes at a time, and that was considered a season. But they kept it going, and that developed a very, very, very devoted fan base. I was at Comic-Con a couple of years ago when the Voltron panel was going on in the room behind the Ghostbusters panel, and it was so loud, like my audio recording was totally borked because they were cheering so loudly in the next room. Like there's a lot of people who really, really, really love Voltron, and that is a Netflix one. Never mind the fact that when it comes to Netflix and their animated shows, some of them are pretty good. The Trolls animated show on Netflix is actually surprisingly good. I really enjoyed The Croods. I didn't think I would. So the DreamWorks animated side of things over there is pretty decent, and it looks like they are putting out some pretty good cartoons that I am looking forward to see what happens with this one here. I am hoping that it's good. I do definitely plan on checking it out. But as always, I want to know what you guys have to say about this. Do you think that a Pacific Rim animated show is going to be any good, or is it just going to be something? But oh, by the way, if you haven't seen Guillermo del Toro's Tales from Arcadia, you missing out, man. Like you missing out. Like oh my god, seriously. Rip Anton Yelchin, but damn, those are good. Those are really, 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 really good. Speaking of good, if you like going to the movies here, Regal Cinemas is readying its unlimited ticket subscription program. And this, of course, is going to be the future of movies. There's no doubt in my mind at this point now. Regal and AMC Cinemark is what I use. I have their service. Movie Pass I was using for a while. It ultimately just kind of it died out. Even Movie Pass is basically dead. You can even see if I come down here, you can see the top line on the thing there. Movie Pass suspends service to work on the app, and they don't know when they're coming back. So yeah, they just find a way to screw people over. Anyway, Regal and the unlimited subscription service here. It says sources confirmed to us that Regal is new unlimited movie ticket subscription service is prepping to launch at the end of July in the US. US details are still being ironed out between the major studios and Regal's parent company Cineworld, based in London. But what they know is that there will be 3 tiers of pricing, which will work out to be $18, $21, and $24 a month. It's a bit high. I'm not going to lie. It's a bit high. I know AMC's got their $20 a month plan for the real cinephiles out there. And Cinemark's $9 a month for 1 free ticket, and then $9 a ticket after that. It says here that each granting unlimited access, while the monthly price of the AMC Stubs A-list movie subscription price varies state by state. Okay, we hear that Regal's is based on theater location. Those purchasing at top tier locations those purchasing a top priced tier will have access to any Regal Cinema, while the lowest tier gets access to about half the chain's national footprint. If someone purchases a subscription at a low tier and ventures to an out of network Regal in a higher tier, there's going to be a surcharge, but it might be around $2 or $3 a ticket. Which I guess that's fine. If you're just going like, look, I already have this low tier, but I'm going to this higher tier and they charge you a couple extra dollars, that's actually not bad. And, I mean, given the savings you're already going to be get if you go to the movies more often, it makes a lot of sense. Now, here's why, I'm actually on board with this for a couple different reasons. One, there is a Regal not far from me, that I do go to that is nice. And so if at $18 a month and I get unlimited, then I might actually go see more. I like the Cinemark because it's closer and I think it's a nicer theater. But at $9 a month and I get one free ticket, doubling that would get me unlimited, just going maybe 2-3 miles up the road. So that's really not that big of a deal. And it's worth the extra gas based upon the amount of money that I will be saving. So that's definitely an aspect that I find to be fascinating. And usually when Regal jumps on board, the other ones tend to follow. The AMC's their A-list program is very well regarded in high population areas like LA. A lot of people I know in LA have it. A lot of people I know in San Diego have it because there's lots of AMCs. And so it's going to fit a particular group of people. But when you venture out of the major cities, when you venture out into different parts of the country, you're going to find a lot of Regals. You're going to find a lot of those because they just have this massive national footprint. They gobbled up a lot of different companies like 20 years ago. And they've just kind of, it's Regal is Edwards and it's United Artists Theater or something like that. There's a whole bunch of Regals and they're everywhere. So getting the average moviegoer access to this sort of thing is going to be great because then moviegoers have the opportunity to go see more movies and not feel like it's going to be cutting into their bottom line earnings all that way. The $18 a month, if you get unlimited tickets, is more expensive than Movie Pass, but it also feels somewhat more secure. And it might prompt people to go back out and help kind of revitalize the movie industry because it is dying. There is quite literally no better way to describe it than it's dying right now. 100%. People don't want to believe me on this one. Like, oh no, it's fine. No. You might see record number headlines, but those are only for a couple different movies. And they're really trying to pinpoint in was it Spider-Man Far From Home at the biggest Tuesday opening ever or something. And it's like, what kind of metric is that? Talk about the fact that smaller movies get muscled out, bigger movies suck up all the oxygen in the room. And that's literally where it's at. That is literally where things are. And that's not changing. In fact, it's only getting worse. And so movies are, they're effectively dying throughout theaters, which is one of the reasons why Netflix invests so much into their Prime content. And even they're going to start lowering or lessening how much they spend on original programming. And that probably has a lot to do with Disney Plus coming into play and how it's looking to take potentially 15% of their American audience away from them, which is that's actually pretty bad financially. There's a lot going on right now, but streaming is quite literally the way of the future, and theaters are going to become more of an experience. The thing with that is, though, when the experience is there, that means the cost goes up. And these kind of services are going to be probably a temporary fix for a very, very, very terrible long-term problem, which is unfortunate because I love going to the theater. I love going to see movies. And for me, it's like, I don't want to see it fail. But at the same time, studios have got to readapt how they do things. And movie theaters are kind of the middlemen that are stuck without a lot of power. They think they have power. They don't have any power. They have no power whatsoever with these studios that can just steamroll them into it. Anyway, jumping over to the last story here, I'm just going to probably run through this real quick. What we got now is the other day it was announced that Neil Gaiman's Sandman is going to be going to Netflix. At least that was the rumor. Then it was ultimately confirmed. And now we're actually getting a couple more details saying Gaiman gave everyone some insight into the Netflix Sandman series. So yes, this is a Mary Sue article. I'm just going to breeze through what he says. I don't care what they say. He says, it's official. Here's a Variety article about the Sandman plans, although it's fair to say that it too is filled with errors and seems to think that David Goyer and I wrote a Sandman script, which is actually being written by the brilliant Jack Thorne. So there we go. So David S. Goyer didn't write the screenplay. So that's what we heard from before. Now saying here the first season will only be 11 episodes. That's the start of it all. Preludes and Nocturnes are going and a little bit more. So it's kicking off the start of the Sandman franchise, and going from there. So the first season, so we already know that they're planning more seasons. Clearly, if this thing's a pop, if it's a hit, Netflix is going to do more with it. Someone asked here, how are you going to tell the story in a whole season? He says we won't even try. That's good. Stretch it out a little bit. Get that nice 3-season run from Netflix. Now, he does admit here that he will be co-writing the pilot. In Variety, it stated that David Goyer and I had written the Sandman script together. That is an imaginary thing. So cool. He's working on it now. Although it's not to say he didn't work on it in the past. I did a video on this, looking at like the past attempts to try to bring Sandman to the big screen. And a lot of people are, I think that's a fascinating thing. He says here that, he says, I'm hoping we can make it something on television that feels just as personal and true to the best of the Sandman comics, just set 30 years later than Sandman. So contemporizing it, making it modern. And that makes a lot of sense. I mean, look at the popularity of Lucifer. Lucifer was written a long time ago. They modernized it. They did it in a good way. And it developed itself a very loyal, dedicated fan base that when it was canceled at Fox, got it moved over to Netflix for the final 2 seasons, which is just utterly fantastic. I know my mom was very, very, very happy about that one. And then he says here, when someone asks, how much of whatever, there's not going to be a sequel to Good Omens. There we go on that one there. So, okay. So it's 11 episodes for the first season. They're doing the Preludes and Nocturne comics as a way to kind of set things up. They're not going to rush the whole story into one season. They plan on extending it out over time, and Gaiman is involved in co-writing the pilot. So there we go on that. That's not like a lot of info, but it's a little bit extra info for what's going to be happening with the Sandman comic when it finally does hit Netflix, probably sometime late 2020, maybe early 2021 is when I'm thinking that. But it does go to show you Netflix is very much heavily investing in a lot of these things. So that is that's all the stories I got for you guys today. That's all the stories I got. So I thought it would be fun to, yesterday I had talked about, I posed a challenge to you guys. Say something nice about Star Wars: The Last Jedi. And you guys did. Some of you guys tried. You tried. Some people were a little bit cynical about it, like there's nothing to like about the movie. Meh. But some of you guys really did try to find a good thing about the film. And the reason why I brought that up, the reason why I suggested it was because for me, I always go into every movie wanting to like it. Whether or not I do is a different story, but I always go in there looking for things to love about movies because I love movies. And so I always like to do that. So I'm trying to change the conversation if we can on a couple things. And I thought for today, it'd be really funny. Can you say something nice about X-Men 3, X-Men United? X-Men The Last Stand, not United. You can't say anything bad about United. Well, you probably could, but it's a great film. Anyway, X-Men The Last Stand. Can you say anything nice about X-Men The Last Stand? That's my question to you. You think it's possible at all? Do you think it's entirely possible? I don't know. I will say this. I loved the Juggernaut meme. I really enjoyed the storyline with Rogue, about like losing her powers to become normal. I thought that was really well done. I did enjoy the final battle sequence. I actually, Sentinels. I'm just going to say Sentinels. Sentinels made an appearance in the Danger Room. That was dope. I don't care what anyone says. When the Sentinel head came flying and landed and skidded on the ground, all my friends and I absolutely lost our damn mind. So I'm okay with that. That's my positive spin I still like X-Men, The Last Stand. I'm sorry. It's been 13 years. I don't care. I liked it. So let's take a quick look here at just a couple of the comments you guys have put onto yesterday's video. Again, a lot of them here are all going to be more or less about Ariel. So Lurking Elmo Reviews, who is a frequent commenter on the channel, says, but Ariel is a redhead. Redheads are the most blindingly white mofos out there. This is stupid to cast any other race. People get upset about whitewashing, but when it comes to non-whites getting cast as well as non-white actors or non-white characters, no one bats an eye. And that is ultimately true. I don't have an answer as to why that happens. I don't know the exact reasoning for that. I know that when it comes to representation and diversity in Hollywood, that is a big thing right now. And they probably look at some characters that they're going to be able to get away with that with. And there's been some that they've done, like, Nick Fury in the Ultimate Avengers comics went from being a gruff old white dude to basically Sam Jackson. I mean, he was modeled after Sam Jackson, and then Sam Jackson played him in the movie. It's the best casting ever. And that's a race bend that no one ever seems to care about. So there's that. I guess it's the way that it's portrayed. If it comes across as pandering, people aren't going to like it. If it comes across as trying to be woke, people aren't going to like it. But if it just kind of happens and then they just let it go, that's the thing. I think one of the biggest problems with yesterday's announcement was the fact that Halle Bailey posted an image of Ariel with brown hair or black hair and brown skin, recreating the epic splash scene from the original. And a lot of people took umbrage with that. They didn't really care for that because they thought that it was crapping on the original, which I don't think it was necessarily. So there's that here. Anyway, thank you for that one. D Dixon here says, I'm not racist at all, but if Disney remakes The Princess and the Frogs, will they cast a white girl as Princess Tiana? Not in a million years. But come on, who doesn't love Princess Tiana? I mean, I don't get that. The Princess and the Frog is such a good movie. It is such a good movie. It's such a great cast of characters. Keith David just absolutely shines in that movie. I freaking love that movie so damn much. Jim Cummings was great as the Firefly. I mean, just the movie was fantastic, man. It's so good. And I would love to see more with Princess Tiana. I'd love to see them. If they did a live action version of The Princess and the Frog, they'd have to make sure that they don't have her be a frog the whole time. But, and plus they got a lot of crap off of her hair from Wreck-It Ralph 2, which I thought was the dumbest thing ever. But, they don't need to remake it. But if they do, find a good actors. I think it's gonna be fine. So there's there. Let's see here. Okay. I'm trying to find another one here that's not having to do. Okay. So Safety Zoom, who is a frequent, commenter on the site, says, if they adapt Harry Potter today, Hermione gonna be black. Well, he's talking about the Harry Potter television series that was rumored that J.K. Rowling shut down. I talked about that yesterday. And Hermione was actually black in the Harry Potter and the Cursed Child stage play. That caused a lot of ruckus back in the day. That was a lot of ruckus. So a lot of people out there were very not happy with that. So as a result, what we have here is a situation where it's been done before. But it's considered canon, which just is like the weirdest thing. Rowling actually tried to judge that, or tried to defend that by saying that originally Hermione was written like that, was written as being darker skinned in mind. Never mind the fact that when it came to the final illustrations of what Hermione looked like, as well as the casting of Emma Watson, Rowling was heavily involved. So as always, she just tries to she just BS's her way out of everything. All right. Let's see here. Gary Owens writes, Black Little Mermaid, SJWs are ruining everything, and no, I'm not racist. SJWs like to complain a lot, but this is always a financial decision. To be fair with you, it's usually a financial decision when it comes from the higher ups. The SJWs you're more or less referring to are the ones that always demand for change, but never actively engage in what gets changed. So there's something there to consider. Again, most of the comments here are just really all about that. Yeah. There's just all right. So I think we're good on. Okay, here's one. This is great. Le Chevalier, Chevaliered Ulis, whatever he says here about something nice about The Last Jedi. I thought this was funny. It made me chuckle. He says something good about The Last Jedi. It ended. Sorry, I tried. I thought that was pretty funny. Okay, so that's gonna wrap up today's podcast. Happy 4th of July to everyone. If you guys made it this far, please toss it a thumbs up. Please leave it a like. Please comment. I look forward to your guys' commentary. And I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Have yourself a great day. If you want to support the channel, please check out patreon.com/Matt Jarbo. Link is in the video description. Be at San Diego Comic-Con in 2 weeks. It really does help out. And have yourself a great day, guys, and peace out.